What if we could time travel through sound? What would that tell us about our past, our present and our future? Today, I want to share with you a project that is really close to my heart. Back in 2023, I met Martyn Stewart, who is a legendary audio naturalist. He's dedicated his life to travelling around the globe and recording different natural sounds. With his niece Amanda Hill and an amazing team, they have made the Listening Planet, which is an archive of all of his sounds. Martyn and I met on Zoom initially. It was amazing to talk to someone who had had this career as a field recordist and to hear about his journeys. We had this idea of what if I went to the places that he had recorded in his 20s to hear how they had changed. And so I pitched a radio documentary to the production company Falling Tree Productions, which then got pitched to BBC Radio 4. And it got a slot. This was such a huge moment for me because it was the first time I had completely made my own radio documentary. It's called Shifting Soundscapes, and you can listen to it on BBC Sounds. But essentially, with the support of Falling Tree Productions, I did everything from interviewing Martyn to visiting these field recording sites and doing the field recording, to doing a voiceover myself for the documentary, through to editing, sound design, adding in my own music, doing the mix. And it really felt like my baby. That radio documentary explored the story of Martyn and also the early-ish days of my own field recording career, where I was going back to these places and seeing how they changed. But once that had gone out into the world, I knew there was more to be done. Last year, I talked to Martyn about the idea of me going back to some more places that he had recorded in exactly 50 years to the day. So he gave me a selection of recordings that he had made towards the end of summer and into autumn in 1975. I looked at my schedule to see what I could fit in around other projects, and I decided to go to Exmoor, the New Forest and the Isle of Wight. And so I wanted to share with you the behind the scenes, and then later in this video I'll be sharing the comparisons so you yourself can time travel through sound.
Hold out for the ending, pay heed to the start, endure till you mend it, and love till it harms, it's alive and wait.
So today I'm in Exmoor National Park, which is in the southwest of England, and I'm looking for the first point that Martyn has sent me, the first location in the UK that I'll be recording in 50 years to the day. And he sent me some coordinates, which I have on my map. There is a footpath, but there's no sign of it on the map. So I'm hoping that the axis has stayed the same and I'll be able to get to this exact spot for the exact time, on the exact day that he recorded in 1975. But for now, I'm just enjoying the peace and quiet as we're walking along because there isn't that much road sounds, there's not really any planes overhead, and it's very peaceful here in Exmoor. Okay, so we've just got to pretty much the spot, and we have a feeling that it's actually in this enclosed section of trees. So we might not actually be able to even get to the spot, which is kind of crazy to think about how the access to this land has changed over the last 50 years. So I think we'll get as close to the spot as possible, which I think will be just along this tree line, and get a recording there. But yeah, alas, I don't think we can get in. So we've just reached the spot there. It's as close as possible we can get on this side before we meet the fence. And we're just going to go down to the bottom and see if... It looks like it's quite a narrow strip of woodland, so we're going to see if there's access on the other side. Otherwise, I think we'll have to set up camp by the fence. But yeah, we just have met this bank of really densely forested woodland, which looks quite magical on the inside, but yeah, sadly, can't get in from this side. We've just come down the bottom here, but the enclosure does just go really far all the way around, so I think back where we were is the best bet for getting as close to Martyn's original location. But yeah, it seems to be an enclosure, I think, for pheasants. There are lots and lots of pheasants inside that enclosure. So yeah, I guess the land has changed. So I'm going to go back to that location and set up and get the recording. Okay, so the kit that I have today is my Mix Pre 6, which is the audio interface or recording device that I record onto. And then I've got my DPA 4060s, which are two omnidirectional microphones, which mean they record the sound in 360 around them. So they give really lovely, detailed recording. I have my headphones and I have my portable charger to power the Mix Pre 6. So this is the kit that I already have, and it's been my go-to kit for the last couple of years when it has come to field recording. But what I'm really excited about the next two trips that I'm doing, revisiting two locations that Martyn recorded in 1975, is he's recommended a different setup, which is closer to the one he used in the 70s, and that is with the Sennheiser MKH 8018, which they're kindly lending to me for the next two trips, and also the Rycote Windshield. I'll put the number below, but they've kindly gifted me a windshield, and so I'll be experimenting with microphones that are even closer to what Martyn used. It's just exciting because it means this experiment can be even more accurate. So I'm going to set this up to record and leave it running for ideally about an hour, and I can then compare the recording with Martyn's when I get home. It's been an hour, so I've just stopped recording, and while we were sitting here, there were so few planes. There was the occasional distant tractor, there was a helicopter towards the very end, but there was quite a lot of bird life, quite a lot of diverse bird life, not loads all at one time, but there were some buzzards overhead, there were kind of your classic garden birds like chaffinches and robins, but there were also all the corvids, so there was ravens and rooks and carrion crows, and then we also had some house martins, gold crests and fire crests, which is a bird that I hadn't heard of before. So I was just looking at my Merlin ID as the hour was passing. But yeah, I think it was a lovely recording, and what was nice to hear as well is we have the sound of the trees moving in the wind, and listening to Martyn's recording from 1975, you can also hear the wind in the trees. So it feels like we've got quite similar days, I think, 50 years apart. A shame about the access issue and not being able to get to the exact location, but I feel like it's still going to be interesting to compare the two. And also, it's interesting in itself that within 50 years, the land can change like this, which is not particularly surprising. But yeah, just one of the challenges you face when you're trying to recreate a recording. But yeah, next up, I'm going to be heading to the New Forest, and I'll be trying the new kit in the next recording, which is exciting. Okay, I'm back in the studio and I'm going to play the two recordings back to back. So this is Exmoor. We're going to first hear Martyn's recording from the 25th of August 1975, and then we're going to hear my recording from the 25th of August 2025. Here we go. One of the biggest differences I hear is Martyn's recording day was a bit more windy than mine. There are definitely more birds calling. There's some corvids calling in Martyn's. Mine, it's not too dissimilar. It doesn't feel like a totally different world. There's a slight rumble in the background, but I definitely noticed when I was in Exmoor, it was much more quiet than I'm used to in London or in other locations I've recorded in. Quite a shocking bit of research, which is from the British Trust for Ornithology, is that when we look at data from the 1970s to now, we have lost approximately 73 million wild birds in Britain. That is something that across all the places they've done comparisons, despite there still being bird life, it does feel like the volume has just been turned down and we hear more man-made sound. But on the whole, I found Exmoor to be totally peaceful. There was the bird diversity there and I heard a couple of birds I'd not heard of before. So yeah, it was a lovely trip. On to the next one. So today I'm in the New Forest. It's mid-September and I'm here to record another of Martyn's locations. So on Sunday I'll be going to an area in the wood where Martyn recorded the deers rutting 50 years ago. So this is when the male deer fight each other to compete for the female deer. So for the trip I've been lent and gifted some amazing kits. So the first bit of the kit is this, which is the Sennheiser MKH 8018, which has been lent to me kindly by Sennheiser. It's a stereo shotgun microphone. The next bit of kit that has been gifted to me is this, which is a Rycote modular windshield, which this sits inside and it protects it from the wind. And with this comes a very large dead cat or wind buffer, and I found this very sweet. It also comes with a little brush which opens like that, so I guess you can spend some time combing your windshield. And then I've got this 7-meter bit of cable which connects, it's a 5-pin XLR cable which connects to the windshield, which is connected to the microphone inside, and you then go to my Mix Pre 6 via this 5-pin XLR cable to 2 3-pin XLRs. So that is the new kit. This is what I'm trying out this week. And yeah, I'm excited to hear how it will sound and how different it will be to my previous setup with the DPAs, and to give it a go. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to set it up for the recording. So I've got the Sennheiser MKH 8018 here, and I've got it in MS mode, which is mid-side. I've just flicked this up to MS. What this means is it records in 2 separate signals or channels. The first is the mid, so that's the sound coming from straight on from the mic to the microphone, and the second channel is the side, which is the left minus the right. And what this essentially means is you're getting this stereo field which you can actually adjust both as you're recording if you wanted to, but also in post. So if you wanted to have a very direct sound, you could actually just reduce the volume level of the sides and then you would have this very direct recording. If you wanted a wide stereo field, you could boost the sides and you would have a stereo field like that. So it just allows that flexibility. And then I've got the Rycote windshield. And so what I'm just gonna do is unscrew these, if I can, there we go. And in here, you've got a holder for the microphone. What you'll see here as well is there's this 5-pin XLR cable which goes down the handle, so then you've got your connecting cable coming out of the bottom there. There we go. That's nice in the middle, and then I'm just going to plug in the 5-pin XLR into there. And then if I want extra wind protection, I can put it in this nice big fluffy guy. That then tightens up like that. And this says tuck me in, so I'll put that inside. And there we have it. That is the Sennheiser MK8018 inside the Rycote windjammer. I can pop that on a tripod, connect up my 7-meter cable so I can go and sit far away and then my movements aren't being picked up on the sound. But yeah, that's the setup. I'm just walking through the woods in the New Forest. This is a beautiful bit of woodland, and I'm doing a little recce to see the spot where Martyn recorded, because I'm going to be waking up very early tomorrow at around 5 o'clock to get here in time for the recording, which Martyn started at about 7. So just with the walk from the car, I'm wanting to be here with plenty of time to set up and to get a feel for the space. I just wanted to make sure that the access was pretty easy. It definitely is. There's this nice path to the spot. Okay, we just got to the spot and there are definitely deer all in the woodlands. As we were walking by, they were just looking at us through the trees. So hopefully tomorrow there might be some of the rutting sounds. However, the person at the place we're staying said that it's a little early in the season, so we'll see. But the good news is we can get to exactly the same spot that Martyn recorded in. I think tomorrow, because it'll be quite early, I think I'm going to be quite hushed. I probably won't do any talking to camera, so I might do a little bit of a voiceover. But yeah, it's a lovely spot. Keeps raining a little bit and then the sun comes out. Hopefully tomorrow it won't be bucketing it down, because it definitely was this morning. But yeah, it's nice to be in these woods and to know that Martyn was here walking through them 50 years ago. Yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow. We're now going to listen to the recording from the New Forest from the 14th of September 1975, which is Martyn's recording, to my recording from the 14th of September 2025. Here we go. So this is a recording where it does feel like a completely different place. I recorded at the same time as Martyn, in the same location, the exact same location, and yet it's completely different. We have considerably fewer birds in my recording. So one really clear difference is that there are no deer rutting in my recording, and everyone we talked to was saying, oh, it doesn't happen for a couple of weeks. So I wonder if the deer rutting season has changed over the last 50 years. When I've looked online, there's been really differing information. Some people have said the rutting season has actually extended, so you have some deer rutting earlier, some deer rutting later. The other thing that was much more noticeable in the New Forest versus Exmoor is the flight path and the roads nearby. There was a constant hump on the road, quite a lot of interruptions from motorbikes. There was the flight path overhead, there were some really loud planes. So yeah, a huge difference from 50 years ago. Okay, it is 5 a.m. and we've just woken up to do the last recording on the Isle of Wight, and I left this outside in the shed overnight just to record the night sounds, and it's a little damp, so I'm just going to give it a little brush with the Rycote brush so it's all ready for its big morning today. It's early in the morning. I'm on the Isle of Wight in Parkhurst Forest, and I saw the most beautiful sunrise this morning as I was getting here. I woke up at about 5 a.m, so I am very tired, and I think it's going to hit me properly later. I can already hear a buzzard, which is cool, but I'm going to this final location, this final coordinate that Martyn has sent me to get a recording 50 years to the day from when he got one. Yeah, it's really lovely. The last 2 days in the Isle of Wight have been quite misty and there's not been any blue sky, but I feel like today it's going to be different. Yeah, I'm just excited to get this last recording and hopefully not fall asleep. But I'm wearing lots of layers because I'll be sitting there for about an hour just getting the recording. Okay, I'm getting close. I'm 5 minutes away. We'll be there soon. One thing I've just been thinking about is how amazing it is that Martyn was here 50 years ago on this very day, possibly walking down this same path. And yeah, it feels quite significant and profound to be following in someone's footsteps and going to the same place that they were. I know it's not an exact science because so many things can change day to day, which means a soundscape is different. So ideally you'd be recording the same sites every day or every week or every month for 50 years. But I don't know, I think there's still something powerful about revisiting a site 50 years later and seeing what it's like, seeing what has changed from when someone else was there 50 years ago. I think probably the biggest, most noticeable thing, the most, I guess, undeniable thing is how much more human sound there is just from planes and cars. I can hear a plane overhead now and I can hear a distant road, and obviously there were roads 50 years ago, but that is just something that has just intensified so much more. So I just finished the recording, and what was very cool is about 10 minutes into it, this red squirrel appeared in the tree opposite, and we heard it kind of chirping and chirruping. And I don't think I've ever seen a red squirrel before, or at least not in my adult life, because the grey squirrels have taken over mainland England. But on the Isle of Wight they're still common, so there's a really busy road nearby, so I was quite instantly a bit disheartened. I think to then hear the squirrel was lovely. So one of the lovely things that Martyn has encouraged me to do, which I've done a little bit of before, but I think having someone tell you do this when you're recording is really helpful. So he's encouraged me to write down things like the weather, the temperature, the exact coordinates so that if someone wants to come along and do this in 50 years' time, they can also find the spot, to write down all the different human sounds I hear as they appear. So if there's a particularly loud plane, to note down that happened at 20 minutes in. And then also just to keep Merlin Bird ID open and to write down any of the bird calls I hear, any of the wildlife I hear. And so, yeah, the first 10 minutes or so was quite quiet in the recording. But then it felt like the birds reappeared and we had lots of different bird songs. A wren, a blue tit, a chaffinch, a coal tit, a great spotted woodpecker, a jay, and a house sparrow. Yeah, despite the loud, distant road, there was actually quite a lot of bird life. Okay, and finally we have the Isle of Wight recording, Martyn's from the 19th of September 1975 and mine from the 19th of September 2025. Here we go. Okay, again on this one, it feels like there are fewer birds. Martyn's recording does sound a bit more windy. Mine sounds a bit more roady. I suppose that is one thing that can be quite sad about these comparisons, is you hear this ecosystem that once was, and you hear what it sounds like now. And yeah, I think when I was first doing my Shifting Soundscapes project, I got quite down about it. But I think what's really important when thinking about sound and field recording and the environments, as Martyn has said to me, there's still so much to be appreciative of and still so much to look after. And having those recordings from the past and having recordings from the present now, it shows us how change is possible, both in a negative way, but also in a positive way. Because along the way, on my different projects that I've done, there have always been these success stories. There's the story of the bittern, which is a wetland bird, and that was on the brink of extinction in the UK in the 1990s, and now its numbers have improved. And there's the white-tailed eagle, which was reintroduced to the UK in 1975 and has just celebrated 50 years of its return, and its numbers have again improved. So while there are many stories of loss, there are also these glimmers of hope to hold on to. And I suppose that's why I want to do these comparisons, because I think it does share the reality of the world we live in today. But also I think it's so important to include humans within the story. I think as a field recordist, someone who loves natural sounds, loves birdsong, loves getting out into the outdoors, it can feel really frustrating hearing these human sounds, but we are a part of the story, we are part of these ecosystems, and it's up to us to change how we interact with the natural world and try to leave a positive mark. It's easier said than done, and I'm definitely not preaching, I'm not perfect, but I think approaching these things with curiosity and appreciation is a really good place to start. And so I want to say a huge thank you to Martyn Stewart and his team, both for trusting me to revisit these places and also for all the amazing work he's done during his career. I also want to thank Rycote and Sennheiser for providing me with the kit. That was fantastic, and to try some new equipment and see how that sounded like, and to try and reproduce as close a recording setup to Martyn's as possible. Yeah, that was just such a fantastic opportunity. And I also want to thank you for watching this and for sharing your interest in this subject. I'd love to hear from you. I try to respond to the comments, so please do leave one. If you're interested in this, please do check out the BBC Radio 4 documentary Shifting Soundscapes. You can also check out Martyn's work at The Listening Planet. I also wrote a song called All We Are, which is about these comparisons and how our soundscapes are changing. And then if you want to learn more about my work, you can follow my newsletter on Substack. You can listen to my music on Bandcamp, Apple Music, Spotify, all the various places. I also have vinyl, cassettes and CDs. I've had a restock of my cloud walking CDs, which you can get on my website. The link's in the bio below. And finally, I'm about to go on tour again. So I'm supporting Jan Tiersen, the composer, on his Ireland, UK and European tour. For the first half of the tour, it's me and my friend Rachel Kitchlew. We'll be doing a duo act together, and then for the second half of the tour, it's just going to be me doing a solo set, a lot of which is inspired by shifting soundscapes. So I'll leave a link in the description below with links to tickets, and if you live in one of those cities, it would be lovely to meet you. Thank you so much, and hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
You'll never know all of the songs I carried from long ago. Heroes of childhood.